Hey guys, happy Monday. Been a couple weeks since we saw you on Monday, and glad to be back here. So we've got a really cool Mindset Monday today. It is, what is your value add? And we're going to dive into that in a little bit more detail. But hope you guys had a great weekend. I know here in Baltimore, the weather was fantastic. Carl, on Saturday, went down to the eastern shore of Maryland and was picking crabs. It was fantastic.
Nice. Did you eat any?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. They were fantastic. So
Good man.
if you've never been to Maryland and you haven't picked crabs, make sure you get in this direction at some point. It's a great experience. Sit outside by the water. They steam them, put Old Bay on them, crack them open, eat them. Best done with a beer or some other adult
Oh,
beverage, which is
always.
great. Yeah, I know you had a long Saturday on the bike. That is.
I did. I've had arguably the most physical weekend in a long time. So Saturday, I was cranking it out on my new carbon bike. So I was out in the countryside. It was like 85 degrees. So that was good. And then yesterday, I was in the garden like all day and like moving stuff, and I'm having all this construction work done in my garden, and I was just kind of tidying up. And get this, I went to bed at 8:15 p.m. and I was exhausted. I was sunburned, as you can see, brown.
You're getting old, Carl.
I know. So went to bed 8:15, but no, it was a great weekend actually. And the weather in England is insane. It's still in the 80s, and like we never had
Wow.
this kind of
Wow.
weather in May or June. It's
Wow.
crazy.
Wow. I mean, I can definitely tell you've been getting sun, been outside
Yeah,
working, um, and probably getting in shape with all those miles on the bike, which is exciting.
absolutely. Urgh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I super disappointing. Yesterday, I went for a run in the morning. I've been doing that last few weeks, and I tweaked my calf, so I had to awkwardly and embarrassingly walk my way back
No,
home.
buddy.
So yeah, so hopefully it sorts itself out in the next couple of days, but
Oh
definitely
man, that's
sore for
bad.
sure. I know, yeah. Getting old, I guess. I can't even go for a jog without falling apart. but but yeah, it's just one of the challenges we have to deal with as we age.
You
That's
know,
why you ride a bike; you don't have that impact.
I ride a bike. You know, 49 years of age. I'm riding a bike for the very first time, but I'm really enjoying it actually. I'm actually starting to get really passionate about it, and I'm spending a lot of money on gear. So yeah,
Yeah, but that's not surprising. That's not surprising to me.
it's quite interesting. I'm buying
When
all
you
the
get
stuff.
into something, you get into it all the way.
You know me.
But that's a pretty awesome segue for what we're getting into today. What is your value add, guys? We're thrilled to have you here on this fine Monday. Hope you guys have had a great weekend. And here we are, Carl. It's June 1st. Can you believe it? We're over 5 months into this 2020, and it's been a wild
Unbelievable.
2020 to say the least. But very excitingly, right? We've got a lot going on. We're actively trying to buy as many companies as we can, and hope you guys are doing the same. And today's topic's really unique, right? It's what is your value add, and what do you bring to the table as a deal maker? And there's a lot of ways to talk about this and dive into it. But before we do that, I just want to shout out to everyone who's here. Happy you guys are here. We've got Yan, we've got Andy, we've got Steve, Michael, Geraldine, Robert, Brett, Gerardo,
Because
Mark. Listen, guys, we're thrilled you're here. Say hi. Tell us how your weekend went. Tell us if you got outside and did anything. Obviously, I ate crabs outside in a beautiful setting, and Carl went for a bike ride. So and sweated to death in his garden. So, what did you guys do this weekend? Let us know. We're looking forward to hearing it. We want to be we want to be as much of your life as we can as we help you change your life. Generational wealth is something reserved not for the few, but hopefully the many, and that's something we want for you. And it's what we're personally very passionate about. So glad you guys are here and hope you had a wonderful weekend. Kevin, good to see you as well. So what is your value add? This is something that's really important, and we're going to go into two different paths as we talk about this. One is to talk about really something you guys have heard quite a bit from us, and that is to stay in your lane, right? So that's one thing. But the second piece is really more of a mental shift and a mindset approach to the entire conversation. And so I actually want to start with that first. And that's just a radical bit of honesty for yourself. So when you go to evaluate what your value add is to a business, both before acquisition and post acquisition, you need to have a very real and realistic understanding of what value you bring to that company. This is your time, and that's a very critical one. How much time do you have to commit to this? What is your experience? What is your professional or personal experience? And how does that connect with the business you're about to buy? What does your network look like? And who in your network can add value before, during, and after the acquisition? But at the base of it comes this really radical honesty, this really radical self-evaluation to determine, what are you good at? Are you good at leading people? Are you good at building teams? Are you a good salesperson or marketer? What is your actual skill set? And it's okay if you go through this exercise and you feel like you're missing skills or experience in certain areas. And that can actually be one of the most valuable elements of this process, is sit down and write down, what are you really good at and what are you bad at? If you're terrible at accounting and finances, write that down in the weakness. And it's okay to understand that, because that's going to build towards what you do after you've completed the exercise. Carl, do you have anything to jump in on there?
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I had the same realization like literally yesterday. So I'm in the garden, and I'm doing all these different jobs, and I'm just not cut out for a lot of the manual work that one has to do in the garden. So like weeding and carrying stuff and just all that nonsense. And like normally what I do is I'll hire people to do all that stuff. But the contractors were here on Saturday, and they didn't clean up properly, and there were a few little things done. And my wife said to me, will you just do this stuff? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And it's 85 degrees and I'm sweating, and I've been on this big bike ride on Saturday, and I'm lugging all this stuff around, and it was exhausting. And the number of times I sat down and just thought to myself, stay in your lane. What are your strengths and weaknesses? My strengths are buying businesses, building relationships, having a great mindset. So, why am I doing the things that A, I hate to do, B, I'm absolutely terrible at doing, and C, I should be having other people do those things. And you can apply that in anything in your life, but it's also really important, when you're buying a business, and what are your strengths and weaknesses, and how can you fill those weakness gaps in the deal that you're doing, and then also what strengths do you have that you can apply to the business you're buying. And it's not just your kind of skill strengths. So you might be great at finance or great at marketing to grow a business, great at supply chain to optimize a business, but also a lot of your experiences that you've had in your career, you can also apply as well. And I think often deal makers, they get so caught up in the process of actually doing a deal, they forget to really kind of hone in on, what value can they add to the business that they're buying.
Yeah, and again, as we're both saying, it's more than just your professional experience. Your network comes down to this, right? We beat that drum all the time, network, and we're often beating it in the lens of business acquisition itself. How are you going to get deal flow? How are you going to originate deals? The reality is that network comes massively in handy when you're looking at other elements of the process, right? Hey, I'm a really good salesperson, a B2B salesperson, let's say, and I can sell anything, right? Great, that's an awesome experience. But if you have no, say, business management or accounting or financial chops, going in with that honest realization of what your shortfalls are and what your shortcomings are means you can supplement your team and supplement your post-acquisition board, if you will, with people who are good at that. You've got this radical honesty that's going to unveil a huge amount of core strengths and core weaknesses. And the best part about identifying your weaknesses are that you can identify and work with people who fill that gap and fill that void, right?
Absolutely.
Carl, you and I have similar but different skill sets, and this is something where you and I yin and yang off of pretty well, just in using us as an example. We both share a lot of the same kind of ideals and visions and things like that, but as a more technical accountant background, I've got more chops in that space. You make up for a lot of that just in raw years of experience. You've got different leadership abilities than I do. I've got different team building experience and abilities than you do. And it all culminates to, a very symbiotic relationship and a net value add relationship for us. And it's important. We're only going to be good at that if Carl, for example, can make a radical, really honest analysis of his own skill sets and realize, hey, it's okay to be subordinate to someone else over here for this, just like for me, it's okay to be subordinate to him in some other ways, right? When I say subordinate, I don't mean Carl works for me or I work for Carl in a very hierarchical manner, right? That can be part of the conversation in some capacity, but what it means is whoever the relevant expert is or whoever's got the deepest knowledge base, or in the conversation we're having today, the biggest value add to the acquisition, both before and after, you want them to take the lead and be the decision maker in that space. I don't want that salesperson, as an example, making my accounting decisions. I want someone who's got that skill set making those decisions. And so as you determine how you're going to impact that company, it all starts with you and starts with really understanding your own skill sets. And that's a mindset shift, right? That's a very big and can be difficult self-assessment.
So what an amazing point you just made, right? And that kind of links to I'll tell you two really quick stories that happened to me over the weekend in addition to all the physical stuff. So what I've been doing over the past few days is I've been rereading one of my all-time favorite books. It's an autobiography called Straight from the Gut. It's about Jack Welch, who, as we know, arguably one of the greatest CEOs in American history when he was the CEO of GE. And one of the things that Jack Welch did at GE, unfortunately passed away a few months ago. And I met him once when I was doing my MBA. And even though I never met him as a deal maker, I was involved in some transactions with GE in the early 90s, but never met him then. And one of the things he talks about in the book is how he shifted the mindset of GE to go towards what he called boundaryless thinking. So they would have these like big kind of meetings in their business units. And it didn't matter who you were, whether you were the CEO or whether you were the guy that's screwing the nut into the turbine in the jet engine. Everybody kind of had an opinion and everyone was collaborating. So that kind of boundaryless thinking, we've got that in the businesses that we own. And then one of the really interesting things, did you watch the SpaceX launch on Saturday?
Very cool, yeah.
Awesome, right? So do you know it's 9.5 years since NASA put a human being in space, 9.5 years. And you've got SpaceX, the Elon Musk company, that's got all the new technology, all the new processes. They can do it at like a 50th of the cost of what NASA can do. So the reason NASA aren't sending people into space is they can't afford to do it, but they've got the know-how, they've got the astronauts, they've got the training, they've got the mission control, they've got the tracking systems. So they've partnered with SpaceX, someone that's got all that institutional memory and skills with the guy with all the new technology. They've come together and they've made it work. And that's a perfect example of a partnership coming together, both solving other people's weaknesses, but leveraging each other's strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it all starts with understanding what you're good at or not good at. And in NASA's case, they were really good at spending a lot of money. The government shut that down and privatized a portion of it. And bigger, obviously political conversation around that and putting that aside, right? Like the core example there is figure out what you're good at and what you're not good at, and double down on your strengths and support your weaknesses through partnerships, right? So before we kind of pivot back to that stay in your lane, doubling down, just to shout out other people. Martin's here. He's from Memphis. People are telling us what they did over the weekend as we asked. Steve enjoyed the sun with his 5 kids. Jan did a horse walk and deal sourcing, getting after those deals. Absolutely. Let's see. Robert did his first scuba dive of the year. Hashtag jealous. Will went biking in the sun and put mulch in the backyard. So it sounds like he was doing the same thing.
Biking, baby. Hit the miles. Hey, if he lives in the northwest of England, tell him to come bike with me.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't.
Yeah, and then let's see here. Chris is here. Shahar's here from Israel. Miles. He said, "Get this guy a puppers back to Chorin." I don't know what that means, but all good with that. Let's see. Yeah, so glad to have you guys here. Happy to have you here. Really thankful. So back to Mindset Monday here. What is your value add? Again, thus far we've been really focused on that kind of introspective self-look in. Find your strengths and double down on them, and support your weaknesses by finding partners and people who have those as skill sets. It's just really important you understand that. Again, double down. So often, and there's some nuance to this, but so often it's, find your weaknesses, work on your weaknesses, become better. When it comes to some levels of being a deal maker or a professional, you actually need to change your mindset away from that, right? It's better to augment your weaknesses through those who are better in those areas. And that honest recognition of those weaknesses is far more valuable than you spending a disproportionate amount of your time on those weaknesses trying to make it work. Whereas you would impact far better change, far more value if you double down on your strengths. So here's an easy example of what this might look like. So I'm going to ask you guys in the chat to answer this question, and I'll come back to it. You're a farmer and you've got to grow as much corn as possible. And you have 2 options. You can grow it in Alaska or you can grow it in Iowa for those in the US. You can grow it in Alaska or you can grow it in Iowa. So drop in the chat whether you'd pick Alaska or Iowa, and I'll loop back to this. But it's important to recognize, what you're good at and be able to supplement it, right? Again, as Carl used the NASA example, the goal is to really find people who can do it better, more efficient, more effective than you can, and work in that way. So NASA's got 50, 60 years of, as Carl said, this amazing institutional experience. They're able to pour that into a partnership with someone who's got the nimbleness and the tech savvy to build technology far more efficiently and cheaply. So going back to my question, right? So Danny, Faith, Brett, Robert, everyone's Iowa. And the question is, why are you Iowa, right? Brent's Iowa as well, right? So why are you Iowa? Iowa makes so much sense for so many reasons, because Iowa is part of the breadbasket of the world, so to speak, in the US, where it's designed for great agriculture. It's got a good soil base, good climate base for great growth. Alaska's not that at all. And so what we're talking about here is really specialization. If you're really good at something, you should do more of it, as opposed to trying to work really hard to do something you're not as effective at, right? And the key to that is really important. If Alaskans decided, you know what, instead of, say, salmon fishing, we're going to focus on corn growing, they're just not going to be as productive as Iowans. And it's not because they're any less skilled or savvy. They just don't have the tools or, resources to work in that way. And so just like resource allocation is optimized by you taking advantage of what you have, you've got to do the same as a deal maker. Take advantage of what you have and what your skill sets are, and lever up to the max on those, and support the weaknesses by right partners. So nice job, guys, on that. So now we pivot to the second part of this, really, which is the stay in your lane, Carl. And I know you and I beat this drum quite a bit, but it's important. And that self-assessment comes into this, right? If you've got a really clear, and you can even write it down. In fact, I'd recommend it. Write down what you're good at. And so when you're evaluating a company to buy, not only should you stay in a lane you're comfortable with, because you'll speak more intelligently, you have the ability to build rapport at a higher level if it's something you've got experience and knowledge about. But more importantly, when you've bought the business, now you got to know what to do with it. And if you don't have the ability to conceptualize or have the idea for how to take that business to the next level, what are you investing in, right? And if you don't have that knowledge, because not everyone does, who can you partner with who will bring that to the table?
Yeah, and what's really interesting, Adam, is when you look at yourself and your own DNA of who you are, there's vertical industries or niches. We call them niches in the UK, but niches, I think, is the American pronunciation. Niche. And then you've got horizontal skill sets. So 2 examples. If you've been a CPA for 15 years and you want to get into business ownership, you can buy a CPA firm, or you could argue there's a lot of value that you can add to pretty much most sectors by deploying your financial skill sets. And being a CPA, it's an internationally recognized qualification. It will get you some instant respect from your peers and who you're networking with, and everyone will take you seriously. But if you don't have a horizontal skill set like that, let's say you've worked in the engineering industry. So let's say you're an engineer and you're working for Boeing, for example, and you don't want to work for Boeing anymore. You want to own your own business, yet you don't want to start a business. We're not going to open that can of worms. Everybody knows how we feel about that. So it makes us so much sense to go and buy an engineering business, a small engineering business that you understand, and you have skills you can deploy, and you have a network that you can deploy. And not only will that help you buy the business, but to your earlier point, it gives you the confidence and the chops and the credibility to scale and optimize that business going forward. So if you're coming out of Boeing, you wouldn't buy a restaurant. You wouldn't buy an online wine store. You wouldn't buy a gym. However, if you're passionate about those 3 and you can't get out of that, and it's like, hey, I don't want to look at another motor or gear for the rest of my life. I want to be in the online wine business. I'm passionate about wine. I drink it all the time and I wine taste all the time. Then that's fine. But you need to partner with somebody that has the credibility and the experience from within that industry. Otherwise, you're going into a deal completely blind. And if by a stroke of luck you manage to close the deal, you're not going to know what to do with it after. So partner with somebody that complements your weaknesses and the gaps in your skill set.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the critical piece, right? Is that self-evaluation leads to an honest understanding of what you're good at, not good at. And listen, buying the business is only the first 10% of the battle, right? The rest of it comes when you've got to then grow, scale, and then ultimately exit. That's where the real big financial windfall happens. Ideally, multiple millions, depending on what you've done. And so finding out early on who you need to partner with and how you need to partner with them is super critical. And again, what kind of industry you should focus on or not, as Carl's just been talking about. A quick shout out to our friend Brad, Carl. So shout out Brad here for a minute, if only because it's also a shameless self-promotion for us. So last week, Carl and I recorded a podcast with Brad. He's the man behind Bacon Wrap Business, if you want to look him up.
Hey, buddy.
And Brad's doing exactly what we talked about. So Brad's focused on the IT managed services space. And so he's partnered with someone to focus in on that space. So I think the podcast drops on Thursday where Carl and I are on it. We'll be sure to share links when we get there. But what's really cool is we spent time talking with Brad and his partner who has the industry knowledge and experience, so that combined with Brad's own deal making chops and this guy's experience, they're able to connect together and hopefully move the needle going forward. So So shout out to him, coming out on Thursday, Bacon Wrap Business. So guys, again, it's really critical. And Kevin's got a great point here in the comments. Staying in your lane enables you to leverage your skills positively and effectively, as long as you partner with those who have like-mindedness and who have the skills that complement yours. The sum of the parts. Kevin, you're spot on, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. And it comes back to that honest assessment internally. What am I good at? What am I not good at, right? Using Brad, who we're just talking about it as an example, Brad's a scale guy. He's a marketing dude. He understands that side of the business. What he needs someone who's got a little bit more technical industry knowledge based on that IT services side. And then the two of them combine to not only be able to acquire a company, but then to acquire multiple companies, do a roll up, and ultimately see a lot of success on a personal basis from really the generational wealth that should come from those efforts. So again, it's really understand, what you're good at. We certainly encourage people, whether it's here on the live or if you're in any of the Facebook groups, right? We've got Dealmaker Launchpad, which is really our get yourself down the road and get ready to rock, right? Dealmaker Launchpad, that is designed to take people and challenge them to figure out, do they have the mindset to become a deal maker, and what kind of business are they going to buy, and how are they going to go find those deals? That's really what we're focused on. So if you're in that group, list your industry, network with people, see what your strengths are. Dealmaker CEO, that's the flagship. That's where we teach people how to buy a business. It's the nuts and bolts. It's the, everything you need to identify a deal, negotiate a deal, close a deal, and then most importantly, get you down the road to start growing it post-acquisition. So if you're in any of those groups, definitely look to network with those people. Same goes for Dealmaker Academy, which is our group training program. This is where people who are elevated with their deal-making abilities and want to actually move forward and take action, they get weekly calls with Carl, myself, and our lead coaches to actually move the needle forward and to see how deal makers really think, how deal makers really understand the process with kind of live analysis and stuff like that. It's a really valuable program. But if you're a member in any of those groups, you need to be able to hit the mark and see who you can network with. We love when people work together and network. I know people who have ultimately partnered as a result. I know people who have met others who have helped them on the financing side. I mean, there's great opportunities if you're willing to look. So, feel like I just went on a long monologue there, Carl. But but yeah, it's really critical you guys have this honest assessment of who you are and what you can do, what's your core strength and what's not, and really double down on what you're good at. Really double down, and then look to supplement and support what you're not great at through the skill sets of those around you. So our challenge for you guys this week is this: identify your skill sets. Let us know next week, a week from today, next Monday, what are you good at and what are you not good at? That's our challenge to you. You've got a whole week to do this. Sit down, pros, cons, strengths, weaknesses, whichever titles you want to work on the buckets, and write it down, document it, and then share it. Share it with fellow deal makers, share it in the Facebook groups, share it with us, and we want to check in next week on that. We want to see those exercises. We want to see you guys leverage your combined power as a group to work together towards the shared goal we all have, which is to buy as many businesses as possible.
Absolutely. And that whole thing, that reminds me of Peter and Hanif, who met, February. So Peter and Hanif met for the very first time in February of 2019. They met Adam at my very first ever Academy Mastermind meetup. And it was in Manchester in the UK. It's close to where I live. I thought, first one, might as well do it close to home. There was about 40 people there. So these two guys came together. They'd never met. They were both in the academy. One was an engineer who didn't know anything about marketing. And the other one was a marketer that knew nothing about engineering, but saw the value in buying engineering companies. So they were just chatting over coffee, and they came together. And I'm not sure how many businesses they bought now. It's either 4 or 5. I know, Adam, when we were all together in London, we gave them at a future event, we gave them one of their tombstones for one of the businesses that they'd acquired. So yeah, partnerships can be huge. And I think what holds a lot of people back, Adam, is they think, oh, I've got these gaps in my skill set. Maybe I just don't bother. Maybe I just stay doing what I'm doing. And it's the wrong thing, because if NASA thought that, they wouldn't have put a man into space yesterday by partnering with SpaceX and vice versa. So if you partner with people and you realize and understand and you're honest, you know, what weaknesses have I got, but where can I really leverage and double down on my strengths, then amazing things can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jan just said it really well, and in a slightly different expression than say you or I would use, but it's the same thing. It's better to eat a little part of a big pie than eating a little biscuit all alone, right? So the crux of that is what Carl and I talk about all the time. We'd rather own a small part of many businesses than 100% of nothing. And this takes that a little bit forward into, listen, yeah, you could probably go out and own a small company by yourself, but you're not going to grow it. You're not going to be as successful as you want. You find the right partner, you find the right group of individuals to work with, or other parties to work with, and you can go from one to many. And that scaling from one to many is where things get really exciting for us and for you, because we thrive off of your success ultimately. So guys, listen, get your mindset right, have those self-assessments done. We want to check in next week. We're looking forward to seeing them. In the interim, if you've done it, post them in the Facebook groups, post them on our Facebook pages. We want to see, what are you good at, what are you not good at, and be comfortable being honest. It's critical. It's the only way forward if you can really have that strong self-assessment. So guys, have a wonderful week. If you've not started on your deal making journey yet and you're looking forward to it, check out Carl Allen's Business Buying Blueprint. It's a free download. Just we'll drop a link here in the comments here on Facebook. But the idea is, listen, we don't need you to pay for anything. Just jump in and get a feel for what this is. We're excited to have you and host you and serve you on your deal making journey. But until then, guys, remember this: you're only one deal away from changing your life. Just one deal away. And it's critically important that you take action and take those next steps. So this week, it's all about insight. It's all about your mindset. Can you drive forward and have a real understanding of who you are, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and how that'll ultimately impact the businesses, not just one, but the businesses you'll ultimately own as an entrepreneur. We're excited to have you and continue serving you. Carl, have a wonderful week, my friend.
Yeah, soon. I'll speaking to you shortly anyway about a deal, but yeah, so do the work, guys. Take the action. Remember, execution trumps knowledge every single time. Do that little piece of work, post on the group, and we'll loop back with you next week. And then also, don't forget, Friday is our YouTube live, 4 p.m. UK, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Come with all of your deal making questions, whether it's mindset, deals that you're working on, anything that you want to ask us about the deals. Rock up on Friday for the YouTube live. So we'll see you guys soon. Until then, bye for now.
Bye, guys. And remember, YouTube, we'll see you Friday, 11. We love having your questions and we look forward to serving you. See you on Friday. Have a great week, guys.